Like a scoring summary or
Good morning. It's an exciting weekend for us, exciting week for us, I should say, with a tremendous opponent on Saturday, a tremendous challenge to go on the road to what I think is probably one of the great venues for college football. Out there at Nebraska, they got a tremendous string of sellouts. I'm sure this will be another one in a hostile environment. And more challenging, a really, really fine football team with one of the premier players in the country. Amir Abdullah is a first-round draft pick running back. I don't know what else you could say about him. Everybody in the stadium knows he's going to get the ball, and yet he still averages well over 6 yards a carry. Just a tremendous player, tremendous kickoff returner. They've got a quarterback who does a nice job, also averages over 6 yards a carry, and somebody that in their system gets the opportunity to run the ball quite a bit, and another quarterback that you have to account for in the running game. I think on the offensive line, they've got 3 seniors and 2 juniors. They play more than 5 guys. They do actually play some other guys in the game. Another big physical offensive line for sure. A multitude of receivers that all have impressive statistics, so they have the ability to stress you in really every part of the field. And on defense, I think they run very well. I think they run to the ball well. I think they play with great passion, as you would expect them to with a coach who's got the defensive background that Bo Pelini does. I think they've got some really fine defensive linemen. They've got a sophomore, number 7, who is a tremendous inside player, a very disruptive guy, very twitched up. And they've got a defensive end who's a junior, number 4, who I would put in the same category. So they've got more than one defensive lineman that we're going to have to account for. The other players are good players as well. But those 2 guys really jumped off the film, I thought, as I began to watch it. Questions?
How was the workmanship last night, just in moving past Ohio State and looking ahead?
I thought it was excellent. I thought we went out to the field with really good energy. I thought we moved around well. We've got some guys that are working through some dings and some bumps and bruises and that kind of thing, but that's not unusual. But I thought from what I saw last night, I thought our workout was really good.
You've talked a lot about the leadership and just kind of the team bond in general, but after a loss like that, is there something you need to see from guys, especially like the senior leaders?
What I want to see is these guys turn the page. I want to see guys own their mistakes, understand that we all need to get better, coaches and players alike, and then I want to see guys move forward. And when I go to the field and I see high energy, when I see guys really moving with urgency, those are the things that tell me that we're doing it.
Kyle, you mentioned their sellout streak. I mean, in a way, does it set up well that it's Ohio State and then Nebraska? Like, you guys handled the Ohio State environment, the 100,000. You didn't even commit a penalty well, and then so I imagine there's not going to be any shock and awe when these guys go to Nebraska, right? I
didn't feel that, the crowd is something you have to deal with, but I didn't feel it would be a distraction for us in the game last week, and I don't think that it was. I don't, again, this week's crowd will be another crowd that we're going to have to deal with. It'll be a very, very hostile environment, when we kick it off there. But it's something that we've handled in the past. I think we've got a good system of nonverbal communication in place to handle it, and I think we'll handle it well on Saturday.
Kyle, you touched on it a little bit last week in saying that some of your scout team guys had more experience with some of the zone read stuff than maybe the pro style system. How odd is that in today's day and age that the term pro style almost no longer means pro style, if you get what I'm trying to throw out?
Well, there was a time not too long ago where these zone read option teams were the exception, and now they're more the rule than the exception. And what used to be the more conventional offenses are not so conventional anymore. So, it's one of the challenges you always deal with. No different than when you have to get ready for an option attack and when you're not an option football team. So I think our defensive coaches do an excellent job of getting the scout team ready for what they have to do, and then it's up to the players to take ownership of it. And I think they've done a good job as well.
To follow that up, I don't want to say limit, but does that condense your assistant searches at all? I mean, I know that your offense is pro style in its base, but it does a lot of other things, multiple things. But does that condense kind of the guys that you look for in your coaching staff because you like the pro style system?
I've never looked at it that way. I could probably point to myself as an example. I came from 5 years in a run and shoot offense and then 3 years in what would be a spread no huddle offense before I came to Rutgers to work in the pro style offense in 2005. I think if you've got the right people and they're smart football coaches, even if the system's a little different for them, I think the concepts and the schemes, they'll have familiarity with them.
Kyle, you mentioned Amir Abdullah very early. Is he a guy that, it's a stop-the-run team against a big running back? Are you trying to challenge him directly, or is this a week where you want to try and make the passing game beat you?
When you say try to challenge him directly, I think they're going to get him the football. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he is going to touch the football in every way that they can possibly have him touch the football. Our job is to make sure that we do a good job getting him on the ground. Yeah, he is a spectacular player. He's as good a running back as we've ever faced. So this is a tremendous challenge for our defense to minimize his impact on the game. Now, that is not an easy task. And to think that you're going to eliminate him from the game, I don't know if that's a realistic expectation. But we're going to do everything we can to minimize his impact and control the big plays. It won't be the 3, 4s, and 5s. It's the 20s, 30s, and 40s that you have to eliminate.
Can you talk about the challenge it presents with some of these offenses that are able to spread you out but still be physical? It's kind of a combination, I would assume.
I think it's the way football is being played these days. It's a challenge, but everybody in the country is dealing with that challenge. Every defensive coordinator in the country right now is putting together their plan to attack these offense that spread you horizontally, not just vertically after the snap of the ball. So it's the cycle of football that we're currently in, and I think as we go forward and as every defense goes forward in the country, that it's going to be a week in and week out challenge.
And then just how tough is it to strike that balance of keeping your base personnel on the field or trying to get more athletes? Just how does that work?
For us, we want to be able to match up in personnel, and you've seen us in different games play more nickel, play some dime, and I think you want to be able to do that. But at Rutgers, good defense starts with stopping the run. So whatever personnel group gives us the opportunity to stop the run the best, that's the one we're going to put on the field.
Kyle, the challengers of their quarterback, more of a dual threat type guy. Just what does he present?
I think the threat he presents now is that he's a better passer than he was a year ago. I think last year he was an excellent runner, a guy who could make plays with his feet. But now he's added the element of being a much more accurate passer. So that you see those passing statistics, you see the passing numbers for the receivers are having more of an impact, on the scores of these games. So he's a dual threat guy for sure. He's not just a run first quarterback.
Kyle, they lead the Big Ten in pass efficiency defense. Is that a secondary that stands out to you, or is that more a product of the 2 pass rushers you singled out?
I really believe that really good pass defense begins with your guys up front. If you could be disruptive up front, your pass defense gets a lot better.
So following up on that, then you obviously faced Bosa and Michael Bennett last week. How do these guys compare? Are they as good? Are they different style players? And how do you obviously a challenge for your offensive line 2 weeks in a row?
It's hard to give the direct comparison before you play them. I don't know if that's the best way to go, but what I see on film is a disruptive group, a big athletic group, and those two players that I mentioned before, number 7 inside, number 4 outside. They're a dynamic pair, and the other players are good players. But when you have a guy inside who's really twitched up and disruptive, and a guy outside who's the same, you really have to do a good job of making sure that you're in front of the right guys in your protections.
Kyle, was Media Day the first time that you met Bo Pelini?
No. I've met Bo at head coaches meetings out in Chicago a couple times now.
Any conversations with him that lasted longer than advice on what kind of felines to get?
Well, there's always conversations. We actually sat next to each other at the most recent head coaches meeting, but we had quite a few conversations during the day. None that we'll share here.
The punting competition, Gleason, are you apt to make that a competition going forward, or are you comfortable with where he's at?
I don't see it as a competition right now. I think our operations got to get better. That's really where I want to see us make some improvements this week. Is I want to see that operation get better. I think if the operation gets better, I think our punting numbers will be better.
You say you don't want to share any of those conversations, but I guess you're competing. Did you pick his brain at all about what it was like for them to just generally to go through changing conferences that come up?
Yeah, those are things that come up, during the day. But at the end of the day, we're competing against the same teams. So the information you give is going to be limited, which means the information you get is going to be limited. Thank you.